In us is this longing to return to that place of peace. That shalom is what the Old Testament word peace is in Hebrew. There's a longing in us to return to that state of connection with God, life that comes from God, and in healthy, good relationship with each other. But we don't know how to get back there. And the story of humanity is all the different kinds of ways we try to make meaning in this world. We try to seize control of our life for ourselves. One of my favorite books is actually Ecclesiastes. It's a total downer. If you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2, if Ecclesiastes had a soundtrack, it would be Johnny Cash's Hurt. Like, I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focused on anybody? Okay. Ecclesiastes comes from an author who explores all the different ways we try to find meaning in life and purpose in life. What Genesis 3 and 4 would say is life east of Eden. What the writer, the teacher of Ecclesiastes describes as life under the sun. What does it look like under the sun east of Eden? How do we make meaning in life? And how do we find our meaning in life? And the writer of Ecclesiastes explores all the different ways we've tried and has had the power to do so. Look at Ephesians chapter 2, verse 9. I'm going to read in the New Living Translation. He says, "So I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem before me." So he'd become very powerful. "And my wisdom never failed me." Became very intelligent, very wise. "Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. If I wanted it, I took it. If I thought it made me feel good, I'd do it. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. Put my hand to the plow on this. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was also meaningless. Like chasing the wind, there was nothing really worthwhile anywhere." He's exploring what Genesis 3 describes. When you look at Genesis 3:6, it says that she saw that the tree was good for food. That when you try to find or make meaning in life by the pursuit of pleasure, that could just be anything that gives you pleasure. A lot of times we'll use the word lust, but lust isn't just a sexual urge, though that might be how many people try to make meaning in this world, is that if I have a drive, some kind of sexual drive, I'll do what I can to meet that kind of pleasure. But beyond that, food. Trying to find meaning in life through food and just getting our taste buds elicited. That could be things like vacations. That I'm trying to find meaning in life by just doing what I want. And when we think of doing what I want, that's how many Americans would describe freedom. Freedom is doing what you want. It's not, in case I don't have time to define it, but that's a way of reaching for the tree that is good for food by trying to find meaning through pleasure. Or it's a delight to the eyes, trying to find meaning through what you can possess. That could be orienting our life around getting attention, trying to possess people's attention, or possess people's approval. Anybody struggle with being a people pleaser? Many of us. That's a struggle for probably all of us in some way, but many of us extremely so. Trying to possess people's approval or, their delight. It could be, sometimes we use the word greed for that. That if I could just accumulate possessions, that's how I'll find meaning. All of our advertisers are trying to tell us if you want the good life, you need to have this thing, or you need to be able to do this thing. Or a desire to make one wise. Again, this is what's described, Genesis 3:6. It's good for food, a delight to the eyes, or desire to make one wise, orienting your life around yourself. That can come out as things like arrogance or ego, which is just narcissism, and we probably live in the most narcissistic culture. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know enough about human history to make that statement about, in all of human history, we've never been so narcissistic as we are now. But it's definitely the most narcissistic that any of us probably remembers. We just orient our life around self. That could be orienting our life around pursuing power. And that's not just relegated to politicians, okay? It could be trying to find meaning by having power in a relationship, by being able to exert power over another person. We're trying to find or orient our life around that, a sense of superiority, or orienting your life around comparison. This is probably the nature of most of our social media, is to elicit a sense of envy and comparison. And the teacher of Ecclesiastes would probably be a huge Instagram and YouTube influencer. The ability to take what he wants and do what he wants and deny himself no pleasure. I bet his Instagram reel would have looked very envious. That many people look at that and say, oh man, that kind of life, that's what I want. And yet all of these are ways we've reached for the wrong tree. We've seized control ourselves. We oriented our life around the wrong story, around the wrong foundation, our relationship with the Lord. And the result, Ecclesiastes finally just says, it's meaningless. The challenge is that you and I haven't come to the end of ourselves usually. That we still pursue meaning through those ways, but it hasn't ended up in total destruction and meaninglessness yet. Maybe some of you have crash landed. And yeah, you went about trying to find meaning in your work, trying to find meaning in pleasure, trying to find meaning in a relationship, and you just drove hard for that, but it ended up in some kind of destruction. And thankfully, the Lord meets us in that kind of destruction. Usually where the Lord is, Dallas Willard would say, the Lord is located at www.theendofyourrope.com. Like maybe you've hit the end of your rope and you realize, like, I can't do anything with this. That my life really, you might feel like the teacher of Ecclesiastes, that like it's just so meaningless. Well, rather than just spiraling into nihilism, where life is just meaningless, actually, though the teacher of Ecclesiastes explores all the different ways, for 12 chapters, he goes about doing this. There's actually two voices in Ecclesiastes. One is the teacher, and that's where you hear here in Ecclesiastes 2. But the other one is the narrator or the final author that begins and ends the whole book. And the last verse of Ecclesiastes, the final word is not life is meaningless. Life is meaningless under the sun if you pursue this way. But here's what the ultimate is. The last verse of Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. The end of the matter, all has been heard. This is it. Like if life is so meaningless, like this is it. This is everything's been explored. This all has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man.
Hey, if you enjoyed this clip of the message and you want to listen to the full thing, hit the link below and it'll send you right over. Thanks for watching.